Takes a big home run. And the close call at the plate. The fireballer on the mound. Big hustle down to first base. The close play at second. The two-base knock that gets stretched to 3. Takes the jubilation of the winner. You got a loser, too. A bat boy waiting for his big chance. Big parade downtown also helps to color things up. Takes a banquet fit for a king. Some of baseball's big names as visitors. Having a few pretty girls around doesn't hurt. And a little rock music. With some dancing to match. Even a little old-time ham boning. Some colorful, energetic Indian dancers. And then, of course, some real serious skull sessions. Yes, it takes all these things and then some to make an American Legion World Series like the one we had in Klamath Falls, Oregon in 1970. Takes a lot more, but it seems we got it all together. Here's our story. For 45 years, the American Legion, under the auspices of the National Americanism Division, has staged the Legion Baseball World Series somewhere in the United States. The cream of the crop of young players has a chance to play some great baseball. Some of them even get a shot at the big time. They'll meet new friends, and they'll have a heck of a good time. The series has been played in 36 different cities since it began in Philadelphia back in 1926, and in 1970, Klamath Falls was chosen to become a member of this elite group. Thrills, work, lots of it, but the satisfaction of a job well done, when it was done. Well, for us in Klamath Falls, a bustling cattle ranching, lumber producing, farming railroad center in southeast Oregon, our series was a culmination of nearly 10 years of working and playing and dreaming, and it paid off big. Under the direction of Oregon Legion Baseball Commissioner Harold Howard, who spearheaded both the dream and the work. Howard had help, of course, lots of it, but his own list of accomplishments is long. The results tell the tale. We had a lot of firsts. Our huge World Series parade was a first. It was the first time a lovely young lady had been picked to serve as a hostess for each team. It was the first time that a dance had been held for the players. Tough, huh? It was the first time the series had been filmed. There were other firsts, too. It was the first time the series had been televised, every game in color. It was the first time, well, a lot of them. We mentioned his helpers. He had a lot of those, too. Committee heads, committees, hundreds of folks that just plain worked. The press went all out, too. Radio station KEGO, the Herald of News, KOTI-TV, the station that had televised every game of the 68 Babe Ruth World Series and the 69 Legion Regionals, then this one, even that 14-inning filler opening night between West Covina and Manchester. Well, of course, the big thing about all these helpers was the fact that come game time, if they weren't actually working at the park, they were in the seats as cash customers. Customers that had bought season tickets as much as a year in advance. Some of them even gave season tickets for Christmas. Well, some teams came by bus. They were quartered at the Wynema Motor Hotel. There they got a chance to get the kinks out and meet some new friends. Some came by plane, all with the same feelings, the same eagerness to get into action, the same confidence, and why not? After all, each of the clubs, Wilmington, North Carolina, West Covina, Omaha, Phoenix, Levittown, Tulsa, Manchester, Wilmington, Delaware, champions in their own right. Who's number one? We'll know in 5 days. Well, there's work to be done. First, Commissioner Harold Howard sort of lays out the ground rules in a manner of speaking, letting the players know just exactly what's expected of them. There's going to be a lot of fun, sure, but that's just a part of it. There are rules such as curfew, clothes, conduct, and they have to be adhered to. Players got their team identifications, their meal tickets, meal schedules. Those beautiful hostesses help. Then the coaches, managers, and officials come in for their share of briefing, too. There were schedules to be met, meals, transportation to be arranged, general orientation so that everyone knows where he's supposed to be and when, so things run smoothly as planned. Well, then came another famous personality, former Yankee great Bobby Richardson, one of baseball's real nice guys who also finished first a lot of times. 10 seasons with the Yanks, .226 in average. Bobby took time for a TV interview. He's noted, too, for his work with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And we had a lot of them here. The players themselves were the first to arrive that night at the big Ford Motor Company American Legion Banquet of Champions. These were certainly champions. It was their banquet. There were no working clothes tonight. That came tomorrow. Tonight, good food, good time, some kind words, and a highly unseasonal wind. Now, some folks attending had to overcome a few obstacles, but they did. You couldn't have kept them away. Mike Balsiger, the owner of the local Ford dealership, was a welcome guest. And among the others was Dr. Earl Stewart, an 89-year-old Oregon's baseball sponsor of the year from Roseburg. Of course, there were many other important people on hand, important because they were Legion baseball fans first and foremost. Among these was Oregon Congressman Al Ullman and his host, Bob Puckett, Series Commission Secretary. Yes, baseball fans wear all kinds of hats, but they all meet on a common ground. Klamath Falls Elks Lodge can hold a lot of people, a lot of fans. Better than 500 for this affair, in fact, and everyone had a good seat. That didn't just happen. It was planned by Patsy Lindley's banquet committee. She and husband, Dr. Ted, had worked on this for over a year, and the place looked it. The decorations were beautiful. Flowers in profusion, banners, table settings, team identification, souvenirs for everyone, players, fans, VIPs. Nothing was left undone in making sure that everyone was happy, well-seated, and well-fed. Then another great, Lefty Gomez, a Yankee, took over. Lefty is good at the mic as he was on the mound for the Yanks, and another era was the MC. He had his work cut out for him. The teams were introduced, each of them, not individually, of course, but every ball club came in for its share of applause from people who really appreciate champions. Lefty introduced the head table. Klamath Falls Mayor Bob Veach. Earl Norgard, the past vice commander from Portland. Oregon Governor Tom McCall, the man who many feel paved the way for our series when he put down possible trouble during the National Convention. George Rulon, National Baseball Director. Irv Douglas, Oregon State Department Commander. Dave Steyer, the Ford Motor Company man. And another visitor on the national level was Daniel J. O'Connor, the chairman of the National Americanism Division, the group that makes the annual Legion World Series possible. The Hall of Fame was represented by Genial Kenny Smith, its director from Cooperstown. James T. Gallagher, the friendly representative of Baseball Commissioner Bowie Kuhn. Congressman Al Ullman, and Klamath's own Harold Howard, commission president, had words of praise and thanks he extended to those who had made the series possible. George Rulon listed the awards which would be presented at the close of the series. From the University of Southern California, Rod Dado, one of the nation's top college baseball coaches. Bill McCord, from Portland, the winner of the 1969 James F. Daniel Memorial Award, Sportsmanship. Arthur Tyner, Jr., the director of the National Americanism Division. Then Lefty presented the featured speaker, Bobby Richardson, the famed second baseman of the Yankees, not an active player any longer, now a coach at the University of South Carolina. Bobby Richardson.
Thank you very much, Governor McCall, Congressman Ullman, and distinguished guests here at the head table, and certainly those of you who represent your region in baseball, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to be here tonight, and thank you, Lefty, for that very kind introduction. And I think that I might know a way that, Governor, I might be able to pick up a golf ball or two, because the famous Louisville Slugger has put out a book here, and on page 19 of this book, it names some men that had been outstanding and had driven in the winning run in a World Series. And you look down this list and see names like Bill Dickey, Joe Gordon, Joe DiMaggio, Tommy Hendricks. And then in 1937, when I was 2 years old, you see this name, Lefty Gomez. He drove in the winning run in that World Series game. And I think perhaps he's quite proud of this, but Lefty, thank you again. It's good to be here.
Bobby received a well-deserved ovation at the close of his talk, and the evening came to a close. Well, the next event on the series calendar was that history-making parade in downtown Klamath Falls. The color guard from Hollywood Post 105 in Portland led off, followed by parade chairman Mrs. Leonard Putnam, better known as Tommy. Then came our smiling governor, Governor Tom McCall, in style, kind of. The Royal Lancers, prize winners, great band from Portland. Wilmington, Delaware, and its lovely hostess, Teresa Snyder. Well, the Grants Pass Cavemen and Cavewomen, this is a lively group. They kept things hopping and happening. Levittown, Pennsylvania, with this hostess, Mary Harrahill. The Klamath Union High School Marching Band, 100 strong. Manchester, New Hampshire, and its hostess, Sandy Sykes. Wilmington, North Carolina, and hostess Laura Mosley. And some future Legion stars, the Little League champs from 1970. The Henley Hornet Honeybees. Drum Major Dr. Harry Fredericks led the Klamath Falls Shrine Drum and Bugle Corps. Then came Phoenix, Arizona, accompanied by hostess Cindy Blackman and her special guest, Ruth Halverson, the Klamath Basin Water Festival Queen. From Warm Springs, Oregon, came a unique group, a rally squad, performing in Indian Sign Language. Then another winner, the Vancouver Hawks. From McCord Air Force Base, the Air Force Band is on hand. Another sparkling entry, beautifully decorated Arabian horses and their equally colorful riders. And the sweepstakes winning float, sponsored by the Klamath Falls Elks Lodge, with hostess Wendy Dean on top and Wes Covina aboard. This may have been a great omen for the Californians. Then some future ball players got rid of a baseball or two or three, and they didn't miss that photographer. Well, a fitting wrap-up for the parade was the appearance of the Astoria, Oregon Sunsetters, another group of winners. Missing from the parade film was Omaha, Nebraska, and hostess Chris Ernst. Well, because our photographer was changing film and parade, just don't wait. Well, that wasn't all of it, but it did sort of set the stage. Now the name of the game is baseball. Well, the parade's all over for Levittown. They were the first up at Geiger Stadium, up against Wilmington. That's the home of Klamath Falls American Legion Falcons, Geiger. The band showed up. They got a chance to buy a souvenir or two from the Klamath Falls JCs. One of the most efficient groups at the ballpark was the ground crew headed by Jack Churchill. Now, that crew included some of the former Klamath Falls Legion baseball playing greats. Even a minister or two got into the act on the business end of a rake. The pre-game ceremonies featured the Royal Lancers. They performed on the field while the stands were filling for that first game. Then the coaches and the umps conferred on the ground rules. Well, the players were ready. Optimism, confidence filled every dugout. We're it. We're number one. The crowd was anxious and expectant, waiting for the action to get underway. Well, the teams were introduced. And the Legion Code of Sportsmanship repeated in the ritual. It's the same at the start of every Legion game the world over. The umps, they headed for their respective positions. And the Lancers, their part of the ceremony's over, marched off the field. This must be an important moment for a young ball player. His fans are there. He's got his teammates behind him. There's a championship awaiting, and so it begins. In that first ball game, Levittown, Pennsylvania went up against Wilmington, and Levittown pulled one out of the fire. Shortstop Dale Forchetti singled in 2 big runs with 2 out in the top of the 9th to give the Pennsylvanians a come-from-behind 5-4 victory. At one time, the Levittown crew had appeared to be just out of it after the Newcastle line had fought back from a 3-2 deficit to go ahead 4-3 in their half of the 8th. But with 2 down in the 9th, well, they did it. Wilmington couldn't score in the last of the 9th. It was all over 5-4 for Levittown. There were fans like J.J. Frick. Competition for him is what counts. Hasn't missed a Legion series in 20 years. He travels from South Carolina to see him. Well, the fans took a breather between sessions. Oh, they'd be back. And Klamath Falls, well, one of Klamath Falls' finest was on hands right there to make sure that things went smoothly. And, of course, it did. Well, that first night session at Kiger was a big one. More band music. As the first session, pregame ceremony was almost duplicated, but this time the Vancouver Hawks performed. It's a group that knows few peers. 2 more ball clubs ready, 2 more waiting in the wings. Another doubleheader? Yeah, thank gosh for a good underground sprinkler system and a weatherman that's on our side. Well, the player introductions, the Legion Code was over. The umps hustled out to work, the color guard marched off, and the Hawks left the field. In the evening first game action, Wilmington, North Carolina gave Tulsa, Oklahoma the hard way to go. Third baseman Greg Dalton was a big gun for the Wilmington crew. He pulled 2 home runs, one of them a grand slammer. More than enough as Tulsa was beaten 11-2. Pitcher Mike Merritt, fan 13, allowed 6 hits. A toughie for Tulsa, but don't count him out because a loss definitely puts the heat on. But you talk about heat. Well, that next game was a firecracker. What a nightcap. West Covina and Manchester. Now, when better baseball is played, well, it'll be played in Legion ball. Think about this. Under strange lights, in a strange ballpark, a strange town, with relative strangers in the seats. Well, these kids can handle it. Think about it. It's the second game of a twin bill. You get a late start. Then you get hooked up in a pitcher's duel that goes for 12 innings when both pitchers are forced to retire because of the 12-inning rule. Coley Smith for West Covina struck out 18, gave up 2 hits. Don Hewitt for Manchester. He fanned 7, allowed 4 hits. And that game still wasn't over. It went 3 hours and 20 minutes, 13.5 innings before West Covina finally won it 1-0. Now, who could ask for anything more? Now someone else is cooking. The Klamath Falls Suburban Lions Club hosted an outdoors breakfast at the Klamath County Fairgrounds for all the teams and all the fans. Well, West Covina sort of slept in. They got there just a little bit late. But then they made up for lost time, eating like there was no tomorrow. For some other extracurricular activities, for the ladies, the wives of the coaches and officials, hosted at a popular local restaurant. And among the honored guests at this was pitcher Greg Terlecki of West Covina, accompanied by hostess Wendy Dean. The lone male at the luncheon, Greg was made to feel really welcome. Another prominent guest was Mrs. Marcella Davidson, the past president of the National American Legion Auxiliary from Clovis, New Mexico. Mrs. Davidson chatted with Greg and Wendy. She had a lot of kind words for her hosts, Mrs. Marcella Carraher, for Klamath Falls, for the series itself, and for hostess Joyce Ward. But back at the ballpark, games 9, 10, and 11, 6 ball clubs left in contention. For us in the press box, a day with only 3 games is like a day off. But for these 6 clubs, it was no day off, believe me, because 2 of them were fighting for survival. In the opener, Phoenix did what many figured was an impossibility. Bounced back from an 8-0 deficit, then won a 10-9 victory over Wilmington, North Carolina. That was curtains for Wilmington. Tulsa found the range for 8 big runs in the second inning, but had to survive a last-inning threat to beat Omaha 10-8. West Covina beat Levittown, its first defeat. For the men from the press, sportscaster Bill Garrard, at sports editor Norm Eunice, and telecaster Wayne Scott, there was fuel for some great stories. Among the finer touches was the availability of handy, comfortable VIP transportation. New Fords furnished through the cooperation of the Ford Motor Company and the local rep, Balsinger Motors. In fact, it was said that Klamath Falls had left little to chance when it came to making things nice for all concerned. The stands were kept clean, the concession stands, and there were 3 of those. They were well stocked and well manned. The playing surface, according to players and old-timers as well, was second to none. Now, this, of course, was real music to the ears of those who'd done so much to make it so. But, of course, the action was the proof, and we had it all. The thrills, the squeakers, the big play, the home run. The elation of victory, the pleasure of the fans, well, it was made known loudly and clearly and often. Klamath Falls baseball priest, the Right Reverend Monsignor George Murphy, didn't miss a game, hardly ever does. But even Father Murphy had to look skyward at this point for some help in trying to answer the big question, who's going to win it? Well, there was one fact that was well established at this point. The World Series in Klamath Falls was an assured success. As George Rulon, the National Baseball Director, and Harold Howard, the series president from Klamath Falls, pointed out in their on-the-field interview with TV's Frank Cook. Klamath Falls' nice series weather came in for its share of praise. Frankly, the weather hadn't been all that good right at the start. But the real reason for the success was the fact that World Series tickets had gone on sale a year ahead of time during the 1969 regionals, and they went fast. Let's listen.
Of course, being very prejudiced again, this field, the kids have told us and the coaches said it's the greatest field they've ever played on, and that's just a real tribute to Clem and his crew, and Jack Churchill and Don Miller and their field crew out here. The attendance has been just great. We've had some bad weather. The sun's out now. We've had some great games. Really, it's better than we'd anticipated with the weather the way it was.
George, how does a town go about getting a World Series like Klamath Falls? What do you start out and how do you go from there?
Well, first, the citizens of the community have to evidence interest in youth baseball, Frank. Then you have to develop an enthusiastic committee, much as they have here in Klamath Falls. And then they have to go out on a limb in bidding for the tournament, because it is an expensive proposition to bring these 8 teams from all over the country. I think when I first came here, I promised the fans that the American Legion would bring them some great baseball, and we feel as though we've fulfilled that promise.
Harold, here on the local level, do you have any idea, or could you give me an estimate of just exactly how many people locally are involved in World Series baseball right now from the American Legion?
Well, on our World Series corporation, we have, of course, our 9 directors, and then we go into something like 38 chairmen. And we figured this out the other day, and I know we missed a lot of people, but it's over 400 of people that have specific assigned jobs, and there's just been hundreds other than that who have contributed so much to this. And then the fans. Golly, the fans in this town are the world's greatest.
Well, the action continued. Crowd leaned back to enjoy some more fine baseball. Everyone by this time had pretty well settled on his own particular favorite, some for sentimental reasons, some for more expert reasons. Cooperstown in the Hall of Fame is just a dream at this point for these young ball players, but each one of them knows he does have a shot at it. It's sort of up to him. One guy who could come up with an expert appraisal is the director of the Hall of Fame, Genial Kenny Smith. A great guy. He knows his ball players. He was everybody's favorite. Had ever scouts on hand, lots of them. Some of them brought the boss along, too. You know, with 136 players in this series, every big league club had a scout on hand. Some were looking at some specific ball players. Well, some were looking for that diamond in the rough. Well, the fans had their favorites too, but that didn't mean that the scouts were looking at all of those. Fans had a ball. So did the players. One of the fans on hand was Mike Keck, a former Klamath Falls Legion player, a veteran of 2 World Series. We also had a big league style between-inning music, organ serenade. Getting ready for a tournament of this magnitude and importance, even a baseball town like Klamath Falls has got a lot to do. Grounds crew has to know what it's doing, when to do it, and of course how to. And that goes into the plans early. Kiger Stadium's a great place to play baseball, either day or night. It holds between 4,000 and 5,000 fans, depending upon whether center field bleachers are used. Some 2,800 in permanent bleachers that stretch to the walls, 330 feet to right, 325 to left, 380 right up the middle. 1,200 people can sit in the covered stands comfortably. In our parking area, blacktop can handle over 2,500 cars. People come to see good baseball, good pitching. They want to see good power at the plate, too. Good defensive baseball. They also want to see a great offensive game. Now, of course, the comfort of the fans is all important. You think of it this way. If you were a fan that had bought a season series ticket a year ahead of time, as so many Klamath Falls fans did, you'd want things to run on schedule with no delays. You want officials that are as good at their jobs as the players are at theirs. And you want the help of the weatherman, too. Well, most of this is well planned. The weather, well, there you've got to be lucky. Now, all this isn't so tough to provide, however, especially when you have ball clubs the caliber of these. Talk about inspiration. Try this on for size. The series teams came to Klamath Falls sporting an overall record which reads like this. Collectively, 302 wins against only 48 losses, all accomplished against the best teams in the business as each club battles its way into the playoffs. Well, our field is a tribute to the Klamath Falls Parks and Recreation Department. It's maintained regularly by custodian Clem Bradbury and his crew, assisted by a fine underground sprinkler system, one that would do credit to a major league park, according to the scouts on hand. And besides, as busy as this park is, you wouldn't have time to water it any other way. This didn't just happen either. It was the result of a determined effort on the part of the whole community. Since early 1968, Kiger Stadium's been in a constant state of improvement. Well, with this going for us, it wasn't too hard for Radio KGO to set up a World Series play-by-play network. It made it easy for the Herald of News to publish a 40-page section dealing with the series and its people. And you can understand why KOTI-TV chose to telecast every single game of the series. Yes, the inspiration was there. The challenge was answered by people who wanted to help. Donations of time, labor, money, help from the trade unions, from local industry, from ministers, laymen, teachers and students, policemen, even city and county jail trustees. They all helped. Yes, the inspiration was certainly there, and the players themselves had an inspiration or two going for them, like hostess Cindy Blackman from Henley. That helps, too. The officials were hand-picked for the series, and they proved worthy of the honor. Umpire-in-chief Bob Chilton from Helena, Montana, C.J. Mitchell from Washington, Bob Shaw and Ralph Myers from Eugene, Oregon, and 2 veterans from Klamath Falls, Danny Dara and Dick Young. They drew praise from fans and players and commentators alike, although everyone didn't always share their particular views, but then, this is baseball. There was a certain element in the stands, though, that didn't care much what the umpires saw, the scouts. They weren't looking for umps. They were looking for ball players. In every ball game, you got a loser. Manchester, New Hampshire, a World Series host itself in '68, came a cropper in Klamath Falls this year. Got its regional championship flag after 2 straight losses. Wilmington, North Carolina, left for home that night, dropping a 6-3 decision to West Covina and that 10-9 chiller to Phoenix. Carolinians had no reason to apologize, and they offered no apology. They'd given it their all, and they'd come up short this time. So when it came time to head for home, they were ready. Ball clubs get tired and homesick, despite all the hospitality they've been shown. And besides, an airplane ride headed for home isn't all that hard to take, especially when you get a send-off like this, provided by hostess Laura Mosley. These guys are going to miss her, but they'll remember that goodbye kiss, like the one that George Rulon didn't yet. Then, of course, George Rulon wasn't going home just yet, either. It wasn't all work during the 70 series. There's time for a little relaxing. For example, that birthday party held in the Wainema Hotel. The hostesses got together and came up with a cake. Well, then they decided they'd better get a couple of extras when 2 or 3 of the other ball players decided this might be a good time to have a birthday party, too. Now, the training table's always been an important factor in the life of a successful athlete. Klamath Falls, no exception. Good food, lots of it. These Phoenix ball players took their full advantage of their turn, but then no one was late for meals twice. Meanwhile, back at the park, another session. Klamath Falls fans come early, and they stay late. But the important thing is, they come in numbers that would gladden any baseball man's heart. They get a chance to pick up some souvenirs. The Klamath Falls J.C. saw to that with a special truck. Everyone got exposed. They had a chance to say no, but very few did. By Tuesday evening, 4 teams were left. But for Tulsa, the toughest assignment of the year. 1 loss against them, that first-round defeat at the hands of North Carolina, 11-2. Tulsa now faced a back-to-back doubleheader. If they hoped to get a shot at that title, that meant they first faced Phoenix and then come right back to meet Levittown if they won. This caliber of baseball, that's rough. Of course, that same fit Phoenix, too. They were right up against the identical situation. But that's the price you pay when the title's on the line. Phoenix jumped off to a first-inning lead. Ronnie Brown scored after leading off with a 2-baser, followed by a pair of singles. Tulsa evened it up in the second when Steve Bowling smashed a solo shot out of the park. Stayed even till the top of the 5th when Tulsa's Ira Willis tallied on a walk, a sacrifice, an error, and a fielder's choice. Arizona came back in the last of 6 to hook it at 2-all when Jim Allen romped home in a throwing error. Well, from here on, it was anybody's ball game until the top of the 9th, that is. Then Tulsa came back with 4 big ones, and that spelled the end for Phoenix. Well, although they were out of it, there were a couple of chuckles awaiting the Arizona club. They'd done a great job. They played good ball, won the hearts of lots of fans. Now it's time to receive their regional championship flag and get set for the ride home. Now, understand, this is a very serious occasion. The pennant's important. But first, well, you've got to present it. Johnny Russell from Montana did the honors. Oh, well. Yes, Phoenix is out of it, but for Tulsa, things were just getting started. Levittown was next after about, say 20 minutes rest. And some Indian dancing that harkened back to an earlier day in the Klamath country before baseball had become quite the national pastime. The dancers, they were members of the Order of the Arrow, the Boy Scout troop that sort of doubled in brass. In real life, they served as very capable assistants in the Kiger parking lot. Then came a big one. For the loser, it's all over. Tulsa, once beaten. Levittown, once beaten. For the winner of this one, a shot at West Covina in the championship tomorrow night or the next. Levittown marked first. Pitcher Mark Schimpf doubled home his catcher Jerry Gilbert in the 2nd inning. Tulsa went ahead 2-1 in the 6th on 3 hits and an error, but Levittown was not to be denied. They won it in the 7th for 3 hits and a pair of walks. The final score, Levittown 3 and Tulsa 2. Well, for Tulsa, the series is over. Time now for a bit of meditation Time to give thanks for the opportunity they'd received. Even though they had lost, they'd fought the good fight, 2 games, crucial. Now, their regional title flag in the long ride back home. Well, for Levittown, West Covina was next, a team that the Pennsylvanians would have to beat twice if they were to claim the crown, and West Covina had beaten them once already. Crowds swarmed in for this one, a full house, the biggest crowd ever in Kiger Stadium, a ballpark that's seen lots of the big ones. The weather was perfect, a beautiful night, stands buzzing with the excitement and expectancy. Then a hush as the teams were introduced in traditional American Legion pregame style. The pregame ceremonies began. Series President Harold Howard led the teams as they repeated the American Legion sportsmanship code. I will keep the rules, keep faith with my teammates, keep my temper, keep myself fit, keep a stout heart in defeat, keep my pride under in victory, keep a sound soul, a clean mind, and a healthy body. You know, this isn't a bad set of rules to follow throughout anyone's life, regardless of the field of endeavor. So the fireworks begin. Levittown batted first, 3 up, 3 down. West Covina's turn. Well, they broke the ice in the bottom of the first. Leadoff man Marcus doubled, then scored on back-to-back singles by Mike McManus and Manny Estrada. The second inning was scoreless, but the bottom of the third was disastrous for Levittown. West Covina scored 6 times. Marcus walked, McManus singled, Craig Barnes got on by an error, singles by Art Bauer, and Jess Mendoza scored 3 runs. Third baseman Doug Lyons put the capper on the frame with a 3-run homer. Levittown was muzzled effectively in the top of the 4th by California pitcher Coley Smith. Then in the bottom of the 4th, West Covina got 3 more. Mike McManus whacked a triple. Marcus, Estrada, Mendoza each added singles, and that ended the scoring. Smith got tougher. Levittown's defense tightened up, but it was too late. West Covina, 10 runs, 14 hits, 3 errors. Levittown, no runs, 4 hits, and 2 bobbles. A new world's champion in the books. The new champ swarmed pitcher Coley Smith. He'd fanned 11, bringing to 29 his total strikeouts for 21 shutout innings. Mike McManus, 4 for 4. Marcus, Estrada, Mendoza each had 2. All in all, a great ball club with a right to jubilation. As Coach Jimmy Jones put it, we knew we had something special. Manager Don Seeley said, not a better team around. 3,000 clubs in the USA. Levittown was number 2. They assembled quietly for the presentations, receiving their regional flag from Earl Peterson, Connecticut Department Chairman, their series souvenir bat, and past National Vice Commander Earl Norgard had the honor of presenting the big, shiny second-place trophy, one of which Levittown, PA can be justly proud. The youngest club in the series. On the other side of the diamond, West Covina received its souvenir bat. Bat boy Larry Morris, sort of emblematic of all the kids to come, found he couldn't quite reach it yet. Not just yet, but someday, though. Series President Harold Howard gave the Californians a banner that proclaimed them the national champs. This flag will fly proudly alongside the regional pennant and the Star-Spangled Banner in West Covina. Sportscaster Bill Garrard took over to officiate at another first, the announcement of the All-American Baseball team selected by a panel of experts. Among these honor winners were Manny Estrada, the shortstop, Mike McManus, the outfielder, pitchers Coley Smith and Greg Terlecki, all of them from West Covina. Well, the remainder of that lineup made up from players from the other teams in this series, and they were all great ones. Legion Baseball Commissioner Director George Rulon officiated the presentation of the other awards, presenting first Mike Balsiger, the owner of the Balsiger Motor Company, the Klamath Ford dealer. Ford, enthusiastic backers of Legion Ball for nearly 30 years. Mike presented the Ford Motor Company plaque, the original, which hangs in Cooperstown, now to be inscribed with the name of the new champ. Sid Schwartz, the department chairman of the state of Maine, chairman of the National Baseball Subcommittee, presented the huge Stampin' Championship trophy to West Covina co-captains Mike McManus, Craig Barnes, and Coley Smith. Heavy? Ooh, not too. Phoenix had more honors coming. Dick Connors, the department chairman for the state of New York, presented the Louisville Slugger Award for the series batting championship to Jack Williams, who accepted the beautiful plaque on the behalf of Ronnie Brown, the winner from Phoenix. Brown, a little guy with a big bat and the flashing white shoes, rapped out 15 hits and 35 trips for an average of .429. The runs batted in title went to Wilmington's energetic third sacker Greg Dalton, who came up with a pair of homers, 1 a grand slammer, and 12 RBIs. Tulsa's star shortstop, Carol Watts, was named to receive the big honor, that of the series' outstanding player. The James F. Daniel Jr. Memorial Sportsmanship Award went to Gil Stafford, the Phoenix first baseman who played the whole series with an injured leg. He joined the select group. Jack Barnes, another member of the National Staff, department chairman from Oklahoma, had the pleasure of presenting a new award, the Dr. Irvin L. Click-Cogger RBI Award, won by Dalton, accepted by Abe Fennell. Abe presented another big award, the Manager of the Year, to West Covina boss Don Seeley, a real gentleman, truly a baseball man, a credit to both the game and the award he won. Coach of the Year honors went to Personable Jimmy Jones, West Covina coach. He got his plaque from Johnny Russell. George Rulon presented the James F. Daniel Jr. Memorial Sportsmanship Award, won by Gil Stafford of Phoenix and accepted by Jack Williams on Stafford's behalf. Williams, the tournament director for Tucson in '71, also accepted Carol Watts' award as the outstanding player. As Ken Smith pointed out, Watts' name and picture would go into the Hall of Fame at Cooperstown, along with the names and pictures of many baseball greats. Watts would also be presented at the annual Hall of Fame game. Player of the Year was chosen by a panel of very knowledgeable baseball men: Ken Smith, Dick Siebert, the president of the American College Baseball Coaches Association, George McDonald, the representative of the National Association of Professional Baseball Leagues, and Joe Carraher, the publisher of the Klamath Herald and News. Well, as the series came to a close, it was time to check the watches and the airplane schedules, and time to congratulate each other and, of course, the players. One gentleman who got the players' attention was Dr. Earl Stewart, the 89-year-old Oregon's Baseball Man of the Year. The players wanted their pictures taken with him, and believe you me, Dr. Stewart was equally pleased with his new friends. And so it's all over. Time to haul off the hardware. And again, some congratulations and grins. Well, the ride to Klamath Falls Municipal Airport, made via the Klamath Falls Falcons Legion bus, was nothing but pleasant. Friendly crowd was on hand to see Covina off. Looking back, Wilmington, Delaware had been the first to leave. Manchester was next. Wilmington, North Carolina followed. Then Omaha. Phoenix left on Tuesday, following that loss to Tulsa, but Tulsa followed them. Levittown, the runner-up, number 2 in the country, long to be remembered by Klamath Falls fans, kind of got lost in the glory dust surrounding West Covina. But that's the way it is. The winner gets the spotlight. Win, that's the name of the game, baseball. Some of the fans had spent a memorable 5 days in Klamath Falls, started heading for home with new friends to wish them bon voyage. Players headed for their own charter plane with their personal luggage, their baseball gear, their souvenirs, and of course that big shiny trophy that says, "We are number one." 3,000 Legion clubs, we are number one. Of course, you've got to remember that when you're number one, there are a lot of clubs around that will insist that you prove it every game. The newly won crown now becomes a treasure for the entire West Covina community, but it also becomes a responsibility for the West Covina team, one that they must strive to live up to. Manager Don Seeley's V-sign says it all. For us in Klamath Falls, we're sort of glad it's over, and now is really no time to ask us whether we'd like to do it again, because you probably know what the answer would be, but try us again in a season or two. Our success was due to a lot of people: President Howard, his vice presidents, committees, in addition to hundreds of people in our community, and we'd all like to thank the National Americanism Division, the players, coaches, and managers and sponsors across the country for making the series, and American Legion Baseball, the outstanding success it is today, and for the inspiration it provides the youth of our country.